Hello everyone, it's your Peacekeeper coming at you with a premium ship review. This is going to be on the USS Kidd. The USS Kidd is a Fletcher class destroyer with hull number DD661 and is one of the 175 of these ships built. She's named after Rear Admiral Isaac C. Kidd, who was the captain of the USS Arizona when she was destroyed by Japanese aircraft at Pearl Harbor. The USS Kidd was launched in 28 February 1943, and like a lot of late war Fletchers, they would not launch with the 2x5 21-inch torpedo configuration, but would instead launch with the 1x5 or quintuple launcher configuration and with additional quad 40mm Bofors, where the forwardmost quintuple launcher was located. This was in direct response to the kamikaze threat during the Pacific and was a testament to the versatility of the Fletcher class hull to be adopted to various roles as the missions saw fit. The USS Kidd's shakedown cruise to Brooklyn from Kearny, New Jersey began a tradition on board. The Jolly Roger, or the Skull and Crossbones, normally associated with pirates, was flown while the ship sailed across New York Harbor. This tradition formally stems from the Submarine Corps, specifically the British Submarine Corps, but adopted by the US Submarine Corps, where running up the Jolly Roger is generally seen as a sign of a successful patrol, and is oftentimes awarded to subcrews for their successful first mission, and run up every successful one thereafter. During her refit there in Brooklyn, the crew adopted the pirate William Kidd as their mascot and painted him on the forward funnel, thus also adding to the tradition of being a pirate. In fact, the ship's nickname was the Pirate of the Pacific. The early career of the USS Kidd involved escorting large combat vessels operating in the Atlantic and Caribbean before being sent to the Pacific. Once sent to the Pacific in September of 1943, she was immediately pressed into service escorting carriers attacking Wake Island. From there, she departed with the USS Essex and other ships of Essex Strike Group to support the landings in Bougainville and the attack on the Japanese port of Rabaul. During the attack, one of Essex aircraft ditched into the ocean, and the Kidd was ordered to rescue the crew. While attempting to rescue them, Japanese aircraft began attacking the USS Kidd, which was able to avoid torpedoes and bombs, rescue the crew, and downed 3 aircraft in that one engagement. Her commander would receive a Silver Star for gallantry during that action. Kidd's next escort took her to Tarawa in the Gilbert Islands, where she spotted 15 low-flying Japanese bombers headed towards the task force. She warned the fleet and then began opening fire on them, claiming yet another 2 aircraft. Her next 2 engagements took her to the Marshall Islands and then to the Marianas. After there, she returned to Pearl Harbor for repairs in preparation for the Battle of Leyte Gulf and the Leyte campaign. Upon returning to her combat station, she provided fire support for troops landing during the Leyte campaign. From there, she went into Okinawa, where her battle-trained crew would once again be put to the test. During the early days of the Okinawa invasion, the Japanese launched some of their most ferocious kamikaze attacks against U.S. ships attacking the island. Kidd's mission changed frequently during this, from screening battleships to bombarding shore targets to rescuing downed pilots to sinking floating mines as an anti-air picket destroyer and an early warning for air attack to guarding the heavily damaged carrier USS Franklin. In total, the USS Kidd, along with the USS Black, USS Bullard, USS Chauncey, all Fletcher-class destroyers, managed to repel 3 air raids, but was ultimately hit, the USS Kidd was ultimately hit by a kamikaze that would claim 38 men and wounded 55 others. While returning to the task force, the Japanese again attempted in vain to sink the USS Kidd, but she was again able to repel the attack until she was able to rejoin the task force. The USS Kidd would return to Pearl Harbor and then to San Diego for decommissioning. Having served in some of the heaviest fighting of World War II, the Pirate of the Pacific received 8 battle stars for her service, but her career was not yet over. At the outbreak of the Korean War, the USS Kidd was recommissioned, but this time her work would be far less eventful. She patrolled off the Korean coast and bombarded targets of opportunity before returning to San Diego for refitting. Her final mission to Korea was in 1952 as an escort to a fleet of ships intended to raid North Korean targets of opportunity along the coast. Once the truce was signed, Kidd returned home, where she was utilized for anti-submarine exercises until formally being decommissioned and put into her final and most important duty station. For her action in Korea, she would receive 4 more battle stars, making the total 12. Today, the USS Kidd is stationed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as a memorial to Louisiana World War II veterans, where she is open to the public to visit. The USS Kidd is unique among the 4 Fletcher-class destroyers preserved as museums. 3 of those ships, by the way, are in the U.S., the others in Mexico. Because she is the only one in her original World War II configuration, she is unique. She did not undergo any modernizations after Korea like some of her sister ships did. The Kidd, in-game, has 2 primary strengths that mirror her capabilities in real life. Her first is that she excels in the destroyer hunting role, thanks to a in-game heal and a down-tiering from Tier 9, where her sister ships Fletcher and Black are, to Tier 8. Kidd's anti-aircraft battery is also very strong, especially at Tier 8. This combination makes her particularly well suited as a cap-contesting monster and a valuable anti-air picket ship. The ship boasts the normal 5-inch, 38, 5 total mount gun mounts found on Fletcher and the second hull Benson, which, with their high rate of fire and good traverse, make for excellent close-in fighting weapons. The cap contesting game is best played in such a way that the Kidd can make a retreat to heal up after the initial fight is won. The second role, that of an anti-aircraft picket, makes her particularly well suited as a battleship escort, a fitting nod to her real-life role. The ability to use defensive fire makes the ship particularly ruthless to CVs operating in the area, especially when you combine that with basic firing training, advanced firing training, manual fire control for AA, and the anti-aircraft gun range module upgrade. The downside to this is that the down-tiering to Tier 8 means that she loses the Tier 9, Tier 10 upgrade module, which could have been used to boost her anti-aircraft DPS more, which would have made her more unique than Fletcher. You also lose the ability to mount the torpedo reload module, or the torpedo, or the main battery reload module. And as a result, that she loses a little bit there. But the biggest loss for the USS Kidd is actually in her flexibility when it comes to the destroyer's primary role of hunting battleships. She loses one of the quintuple launchers, and with only 5 torpedo tubes that fire Benson's relatively slow torpedoes, it's very difficult to say that this ship excels at that role. In fact, the vast majority of this ship's time is going to be spent heavily in smoke or behind islands when it comes to engaging other capital ships, and that's because the torpedoes just are not flexible enough to rely upon outside of ambush distances. And so with that, let's dive into some stats. With Survivability Expert on your captain, and we'll talk about captain skills here in a minute, 19,500 hit points, 20 millimeters of armor. It's a destroyer. They don't have armor. They didn't call them the tin cans for nothing. The main battery consists of a single 5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose guns. They have a 12.1 kilometer firing range. We already talked about the torpedo tube. She has one quintuple launcher mounted in the middle. They have 55 knot speed, 9.2 kilometer range, a 122 second reload time. Why wargaming? Why? The torpedoes do 16,633 damage and have a short detection range of 1.1 kilometers. In terms of anti-aircraft, this is one of the strong suits of this ship. Those 5-inch 38 dual-purpose gun mounts comprise the bulk of her AA DPS here. With 71 DPS and 6 kilometers of range, this is by far one of the strongest dual-purpose gun mount setups you can have. Of course, Fletcher and Benson both have it. Just something to keep in mind there. She does have 2 quad 40mm Bofors. Those are mounted where what would be the forward-most torpedo tube setup would have been. 4.2 kilometer range there with those. The 40mm, she has 3 dual 40mm Bofors, and then 6 dual 20mm Oerlikons. Now, in terms of anti-aircraft DPS, I know somebody is going to be wondering, what is the difference between the Kidd and the Fletcher? Well, one thing to keep in mind here is that without that Tier 9 slot, we can't get a full anti-aircraft spec on this ship. But comparing them apples to apples here with just the range module, the same captain on both, 187 DPS for the Kidd, that's all the anti-aircraft together, and 162 on the Fletcher. Both get access to the defensive fire consumable, but the Fletcher actually gains the added benefit of an increase in her DPS for anti-aircraft duties by having that Tier 9, Tier 10 module slot. And to me, that seems a little odd that they didn't give this ship that slot, but I also recognize that that would make the ship even more ridiculously strong. Plus, with the added heal, I'm not so sure that the ship really needs more. Maneuverability, 39.9 knots. That's going to be with the speed flag. Let's drop that off here and get an accurate one. I want to say it's like 38. Yeah, 38 knots without the speed flag. 620 meter turning circle radius, 3.9 second rudder shift time. And that's going to be without the rudder shift module. And we'll talk about the reasons why I didn't choose that come the modules. Concealment range is typical Fletcher, 5.8 kilometers by sea, 3.3 by air. Let's talk about those upgrade slots. In the first upgrade slot, you can see I'm running Auxilary Armaments Mod 1, which is going to increase my anti-aircraft mount survivability by 100%. So in effect, we're doubling the hit point pool of our anti-aircraft guns. Now, a lot of people are going to say you should probably run Main Armaments Mod 1 because this, increases the survivability of your offensive firepower, your 5-inch 38s, as well as your torpedo tubes, decreases the chance of them getting incapacitated by 20%, increases their hit points by 50%, decreases the time it takes to repair them by 20%. But the reality of the situation here is if you want to run the ship as an anti-aircraft destroyer and also contest caps, you're going to run into the problem where in the actual cap itself, you're going to be taking hits from the enemy destroyer, and anything you can do to make your AA survive is going to help you in the late game when there's carriers involved. And of course, carriers are becoming more and more common as the years go on here, so definitely worth, in my opinion, picking up Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1. Of course, there's Magazine Mod 1 for those of you who are out of detonation flags. That's that 70% reduction in chance of having your ship detonate. In the second slot, I am running Propulsion Systems Mod 1 for the 20% reduction in the chance of your engine being incapacitated, as well as a 20% reduction in the time it takes to repair it. Now, with Last Stand, I'm more or less using this for the reduction in the chance of the engine being incapacitated than I am for anything else. Of course, you could run Steering Gears Mod 1, which is the same thing for your steering gears. It just kind of depends on what you feel is or more detrimental to losing. In my opinion, losing the engine is worse than losing steering, especially with Last Stand, where you can always continue steering. These other upgrades, not terribly useful. In fact, we don't have an engine boost to use, unless you want to give up defensive AA, which I honestly don't. In the third slot, you can see I am running AA Guns Mod 2, and this is going to boost the anti-aircraft gun range by 20%. And, well, considering the ship's very strong anti-aircraft suite for a destroyer, guess what I'm running? Aiming Systems Mod 1 is the only other one at this tier that I would actually recommend running. That's going to reduce the dispersion of your main guns by 7%. It's also going to increase the traverse speed of your torpedoes by 20%, but really not that useful. You only have 12.1 kilometer range, and it takes forever for shots to get there at 12.1 kilometers, so this really doesn't help out that much. In the fourth slot, you can see I'm running Propulsion Systems Mod 2, and this is going to, it increases the engine power when the ship starts moving, and it decreases the time in half to reach full power when accelerating. Now, this only really comes into play at the -6 to 6 knot range, but with this ship's playstyle, especially when dealing with capital ships, you're going to be spending a lot of time in smoke or behind islands, and with that comes a certain risk of torpedoes, of aircraft, of shells coming in over the top of the island, where moving and being able to move out of that position quickly is important. And without the speed boost consumable on the ship, it is important to be able to do that. Now, at 3.9 seconds, the rudder shift isn't completely ridiculous, especially since there's Japanese destroyers that have very similar rudder shift times. There's also a lot of Russian destroyers that have that and worse rudder shift times. And so Steering Gears Mod 2 doesn't really feel like a necessity. However, if you're somebody who really wants to make this ship turn, Steering Gears Mod 2 is there for the 20% reduction in rudder shift time. Damage Control Systems Mod 2, not useful. In the final fifth slot, I am running Concealment Systems Mod 1 for the 10% reduction in the detection range of the ship, and it does increase the dispersion of shells fired at you by 5%. These other upgrades, really not that useful. Target Acquisition Systems Mod 1, the only thing that's really useful on this is the change of assured acquisition of enemy ships from 2 kilometers to 3 kilometers, and the 20% increase in the spotting range of torpedoes. But going from, I think it's 6.4 kilometers detection range down to 5.8, that extra 0.6 just helps you get that much closer to your enemies before engaging them. And that makes it more likely for you to take out the enemy ship than running, any other mod. And we've already talked about steering gears, so reducing the rudder shift time by an additional 40% really doesn't matter that much. Let's talk briefly about captain skills. I have a whole video on US captain skills, and I think that video should stand on its own here, but the reason why I want to bring up the captain skills with the USS Kidd is going to depend upon your role. Now, if you're going to run this ship as an anti-aircraft escort, there's a couple of skills that I would highly recommend finding a way to sneak into your build. Most importantly is advanced firing training and then manual fire control for AA. Those two modules together are going to increase your DPS, plus increase the range at which you can fire your guns. And with that comes the added difficulty of choosing what other skills to take because, in my opinion, Adrenaline Rush is necessary. So it's a destroyer. It has a heal, so it can actually utilize that somewhat. I think Survivability Expert is necessary for increasing the hit point pool of your ship. So there's a lot of skills here that I think are necessary, but you can see here I am running, and this is the order I would take them in. Preventative Maintenance for the 30% reduction in the incapacitation of modules. Last Stand so that you can maneuver and still go, still have power even though your engines and rudders are incapacitated. Basic Firing Training for the reduction in reload time, but more importantly, the increase in DPS of your AA by 20%. And Concealment Expert. From here, Survivability Expert, then Superintendent, then Adrenaline Rush, then Priority Target. And this build is very versatile. You don't have the ridiculous range of the, for your AA with Advanced Firing Training. You don't have the ridiculous DPS with Manual Fire Control for AA. But as an overall balanced build between destroyer hunting and anti-aircraft escort, this, in my opinion, works out best. Now, you'll notice I'm not running RPF. I really don't find it as a necessary skill, and we discussed that ad nauseum in the US Destroyer Captain Skills video. So check out that video for other builds if you're looking for other build options. In the meantime, let's go look at the USS Kidd in a battle video. Alright, so this is actually going to be a ranked battle with carriers involved, so you can imagine what we're about to show. With ranked battles comes the added benefit of everybody being tier 8. You don't have to worry about being up-tiered to Tier 9 or Tier 10, where you will see the Fletcher, which in my opinion is still a much stronger ship overall. It's just a little bit more flexible than the Kidd is in terms of being able to handle enemy situations, specifically the destroyer versus destroyer engagement, where the only advantage that the Kidd really seems to have in that is the ability to heal afterwards. Other than that, the ships are both very strong. So now with rank, this is the map north, and this is an old but fantastic map. You can see this map and how it has changed over the years. By going and looking at some of my really old videos. I have a epic battle replay from like open beta days in the USS Iowa on this map, and you can see this map has changed a lot. But this is still a fantastic map. My recommendation for ranked play on this map is if you are going to go any one direction, make sure your whole team is committed to it. Now, I've found personally that the vast majority of teams go A, and so that allows a very distinct amount of support to come from sneaking around the B cap. Now, of course, with carriers, it's very hard to sneak anywhere, but the nice part about the USS Kidd is we're really not all that worried about aircraft in this, and you'll see why. And it makes me really, really, really interested in seeing what a full AA build Fletcher or Gearing would accomplish in the same role. Of course, we are loaded up heavy. We have a Low Yang here, a Kidd, so there's 2 premiums, and a Kizaki, which is the premier, in my opinion, at this tier, is the premier destroyer hunter. It's just a strong ship. Those 8 4-inch guns just absolutely rip apart enemy ships. Oh look, aircraft. Well, we're going to leave the AA off for a minute. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to melt us some aircraft here. Wait for it. No, okay, well, he's going to run. I don't blame him personally. Trying to move a little bit here out of the fire, being spotted there temporarily when I opened up the anti-aircraft guns meant that we definitely had to be cautious about incoming fire from the Tirpitz and Amagi. Of course, it's no secret now that we are going towards B. In fact, we've capped it. But us 3 destroyers are going to continue the reign of destruction that's about to, we're going to continue this. Actually, we're probably more accurately going to start the reign of destruction. So there is our scouting bomber. We're going to go ahead and lay down a smoke screen because we've got battleships to burn. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to engage this Amagi. Oh, look at here! We've got ourselves some torpedo bombers and dive bombers. Watch the aircraft kill counter go up. So right now, there's 2, 3, 4... Come back, aircraft carrier, I want to play. 5, 6, 7, 8. It really is ridiculously strong. I mean, like I said, I would really love to see a full AA build Fletcher or Gearing with this. Alright, so we're running out of targets to shoot at here, so we need to make up our mind. With those carrier aircraft gone now, we got plenty of spotting, so the issue isn't necessarily spotting per se. The issue is that we don't have a whole lot of gun range, and quite honestly, Kidd's guns are kind of anemic when it comes to shooting at capital ships like a Tirpitz. The real hope here is starting fires, and of course with basic firing training, the reload on this thing is nuts. Doesn't help that we added Adrenaline Rush to the mix. Our torpedoes, though, are moving very slow, and this is the one downside to the Benson torpedoes, and it's one of the reasons why when it comes to Benson versus Fletcher engagements, well, not necessarily versus Fletcher. When it comes to comparing the 2 ships, I really don't think Benson is that great of a destroyer. There are far better destroyers, in my opinion. Of course, the 9.2 kilometer range is also a massive hindrance, and I really don't care for that. So out comes our Bismarck, but with this, we have our Kizaki just raining down death and destruction as well. know, we've got a fire that's rolling on something, which is good. I'm happy with that. It must be that Torpedoes. So we're just going to continue to engage. We're going to continue to push the issue here. Our Lo Yang, our Akizuki, us in the Bismarck. We're rolling. Now I am fully committed to the anti-aircraft role right now with the Bismarck, with our proximity to him. Kind of letting him get ahead of us there to try and distract things a little bit more. Plus, we're behind an island and not detected, which is super useful. We don't have to burn a smoke consumable, which is on cooldown anyway. Oh, detected. No longer detected. But we managed to shoot down another aircraft somehow. Well, now I'm being targeted, and there is a severe risk here because this is a ranked battle. Their carrier has moved up a lot, so there is an added risk of being, you know, engaged. Ooh, down goes managed to sneak the Torpedoes kill in there. So there is definitely a risk that this carrier could get overrun by this flanking force, and of course our carrier is doing his best to try and delay as much as possible. And our lost battleship and lost cruiser, they did their best to delay as much as possible. And now that we're over here, they have the added challenge of dealing with what amounts to a huge strike force flanking them. And once again, their carrier, lay a smoke screen here for our Bismarck, their carrier is present. So, hi. I think you forgot that the USS Kidd has ridiculous aircraft firepower, so we'll go ahead and we'll pop our defensive fire consumable and look at how quickly stuff is melting around us. Another 4 kills. Okay, so we're up to 15 kills. But we're not done yet. Oh man, I'm telling you, this ship as an anti-aircraft escort is pretty strong. And at this point, I really wasn't expecting much from, you know, in terms of overall damage output, because the ship's role is primarily as a destroyer hunter. I mean, it really does excel at the role. The high rate of fire, the fast turret traverse, all of that adds together for some really strong anti-destroyer hunting role. But at the end of the day, overall damage output in that is very low, and it has a large part to do with the fact that we don't have any real... Oh, look, more aircraft, but our defensive fire consumable is down, unfortunately. We're still providing pretty valuable AA. We're not doing a whole lot. No, down he goes. Oh, hey! That's a carrier trying to shoot at me. Well, you managed to force me off into the direction that you probably shouldn't have, and now we're shooting down those aircraft even faster. Look what popped up on the screen here. We got 19 kills. Oh, there's a fire. Switch to AP there, hoping for some Citadel hits. Not managing to make it through belt armor, apparently. I mean, we're doing 1,300 damage, but there are far better ways to sink this aircraft carrier. He is on fire. Because he is now, you know, turning, we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch back to HE. Hoping to maybe get a torpedo hit off here. A little premature. Probably should have waited. But because he is launching aircraft, we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to keep pelting him because we have free reign of this aircraft carrier. Very much so. Our Lo Yang is launching a very epic... you know, run around on the other side, so we got torpedoes coming in from both angles now, and our torpedoes unfortunately missed, but the Lo Yang will not be denied. And of course, there are aircraft in the air, so that means our defensive fire consumable, which is now up, is going to get put to good use. Up to 22 kills. Just keep on rolling. 23, 24. Come on. We can shoot down some more. 25, 26. 27. And 28 aircraft kills. Now, we need to cap A because while we've sank their carrier and ours is still alive, it's basically our carrier running from an Edinburgh and their 2 destroyers. And it's going to be us 3 destroyers. So we're going to pop our heal real quick because we do have that as an advantage. So we're going to pop that so we get up a little bit higher in the hit point pool. That means that we are going to have to take the lead on charging into things. We are going to help Cap, though. Oh, okay, Amagi. I'm spotting for the Akizuki, so hopefully he can, yep, there he goes. He's going to start burning. Yeah, start his ring of fire here. Laying another smoke screen for the Akizuki, just so that he has the added ability to continue firing if necessary. And, well, torpedoes, yeah, we're not going to be able to get anything off on them. We're going to go ahead and launch them anyway because there is a destroyer somewhere over there. And, well, I would like to tempt fate a little bit. Oh, not going to matter. We are laying a U.S. destroyer smoke screen, which is very potent. Oh, so the Kiev is still in his smoke. That would not be my first choice of location. There he is. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the Kiev, and we're going to switch to engaging him full bore. And Fletcher, you know, oh, island in the way. Well, that's unfortunate. Alright, well, let's go ahead and let's focus on down going this some way. And we do have a destroyer up here that we could go hunt. Armored decks, yes. Armored decks indeed. Bounce lots of shells. Okay, so there is their Benson, trying our best to maybe distract him so our Shokaku can get out of the situation that he's currently in. He did manage to sink that Edinburgh, though. It'd be nice to keep him alive. Just because I want to keep our carrier alive. I don't want us to lose points. I want us to win this as fast as we possibly can. Oh, but with that many hit points, it's a matter of time before he's dead. We're going to try. Ooh, detected by 2 instantly. Priority target is not usually a skill I use, but because of the rate of fire of a Fletcher, there's really no point in running any of the other Tier 1 skills. Once you have preventative maintenance on, it really becomes less useful as a skill overall. So waiting up here just a little bit, trying to get the island as cover for this Amagi so that we can burn things down. Our smoke screen consumable is on cooldown. At this point, it's really just a lot of just in general gunboating. I mean, this is pretty standard affair for U.S. ships. Basically going to be prioritizing, ooh, switch to AP there. Ooh, fancy. Mostly because he's broadside. Amagi getting very angry and upset by the fact that he's being shot at, and we are lopping off 3K, almost a full 3K a salvo. Kind of waiting for our destroyers to catch back up over here, but, well, let's see if we can't go get ourselves back, Oh, nope, carrier, down he goes. Well, we're gonna go ahead and you'll notice I'm sailing broadside to this Amagi, but this is one of the advantages of having a very, very, very good acceleration and deceleration. He just flat out misses. That's a hard shot, though. Well, I don't blame the chat is, Amagi firing HE. No, I really don't blame him. The Amagi with 3 destroyers remaining is at a serious disadvantage. I mean, they're going to lose this match just by virtue of the fact that there are 3 destroyers left. I'm going to be killing this Benson fast. So here's the typical U.S. destroyer roll, right? So their Benson is actually the final hull configuration Benson, and that would not have been my choice for rank. That's just me personally. Down goes their Benson, and look, we can heal back damage. So 67,587 damage is what we're at for right now. Gonna turn ourselves around here. We don't really need the cap, so we got a couple of choices in what we can do. But overall, you really don't need. You really don't want that final hull configuration for Benson. The 4-turret configuration, just you cut out firepower for defensive fire, and for anti-aircraft escorting, truth be told, I really think that the extra 5-inch gun mount is actually super important, but that's just me. 194 shell hits, 3 fires, 67,587 damage, 2 kills, 28 plane kills, 2 assists in the caps. Arlo Yang is currently doing his best to stay alive. He's using the island there for cover. We're going to dive into this cap, though, get ourselves in there, and maybe we can get this Amagi before the game ends, but I doubt it. 920 points, 4 minutes remaining, almost 5 minutes remaining, I don't think so. So let's talk about Kidd overall. The Kidd overall, I think this video shows the Kidd in a very positive light. My biggest frustration with U.S. destroyers has predominantly been tied into this notion that they're the ultimate in cap, they're the captain tester. Yeah, they can do that until their hit point pool is such. Oop, there goes another aircraft. We're up to 29. Once a U.S. destroyer's hit point pool gets down low enough, once the hit point pool gets down low enough, a U.S. destroyer relies entirely upon its torpedo armament. The Kidd doesn't have that. Yes, it's got heals, which is nice, but at the end of the day, the heal, you can only repair so much damage of a certain type. And with that, it's an advantage, yes, but it's not the overpowered advantage that many people think it is. It can do the cap contest thing 2 or 3 times, and then it's kind of down to just if you don't have smoker islands, you basically don't do anything. So 67,587 damage, 2,226 base XP, 29 aircraft kills, and just a ridiculous amount of aircraft kills for a destroyer, in my opinion. That's not even a full AA build at that. Anyway, as a destroyer hunter and as an anti-aircraft escort, Kidd is pretty solid. As a destroyer overall, I think it's pretty average. I'm starting to enjoy it the more and more I play it in ranked. Anyway, I'm your Peacekeeper. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.